Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Fasten of Yarnalong event. My name is Josiane, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm going to be your host today. Did you ever wonder what designers chat about when they meet? Today we get to find out. So, for this designer conversation, we are lucky to have with us Lauren from To Crochet or Not, Vimala from ViVaCrochet, and Natalia from Natalia Yarncraft. I'll invite each of you, to please briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your design business. Maybe we could start with Vimala.
Okay. Thank you, Josiane. I'm happy to be here. She rightly said, we are a mother-daughter duo who started this way back in 2014. But my daughter then was very young, and she's young now too, but not as young. So she's 28 and she's moved on to do her higher studies. She's continuing her PhD in art education. And so she's not here with me to join in the call. So it's just me right now, but she does all the background work for the designing. Like I run all my ideas through her, and as does she. And we've been doing it. I've not gotten into wearables. I mostly crochet. I do knit, but I do not have confidence to design in it yet. And crochet and Tunisian crochet, of course, is my absolute favorite. Yeah, I've mostly dabbled with accessories like beanies, scarves, squares, Afghan squares, mandalas, coasters, and stuff. So that's about what I do. And I've been doing it for crocheting for 30 years, designing for 10 plus years.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you. Lauren, what about you?
Absolutely. So I started crocheting in 2018, I guess. It hasn't been that long, but I quickly got very interested in baby blankets. All of my friends are having babies, and that's kind of what got me into crocheting in the first place. And then I picked up Tunisian crochet and I loved it. And I wasn't really finding blanket patterns that I wanted to make. So I started designing my own and thought, well, maybe I should share these with people and put these patterns out there. So for the last few years, I think I started selling patterns in 2023. So just a couple of years. I focused on blankets, but I'm going to be moving more into kind of the light wearables, cowls and scarves and beanies and such over the next year or so. Maybe one day a sweater, but that seems far off for me. So yeah,
You've got time.
that's yes.
It's someday, maybe down the road somewhere.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you. And Natalia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your design business?
So I'm Natalia, person behind Natalia Yarncraft. So most of my socials and website is Natalia Yarncraft, but on special website, I'm under my real name, Natalia Pleshko. So that's how you can find my patterns. And I knit for more than 30 years and crochet maybe close to 20. And about last year, during the also Fasten of Yarnalong, this time I start picking more Tunisian crochet. And so now I have also already published one design in Tunisian crochet. So yeah, this is my like mix of everything together. And because I usually do something on the go and I prefer more not compact but easy to carry, easy to be with some project somewhere. So most of my designs on a smaller side, like cowls and um, kind of wraps or shawls, so you can make it, place it, and then pick it up again in a kind of short of time. So, but I also did couple garments for the publication, two skirts and one cardigan, very lacy cardigan. So it was fun to just dive in this part and explore grading. This is very interesting part of designing, grading to 10 sizes. Yeah, yeah, that's how I work everywhere. Some little bits here, little bits here, and little bits here. Yeah.
Thank you. And now we're going to open it to you for more of a free-form conversation. And as a starting point, we're asking, how did you learn your craft? That's a question that's been suggested to us by a Fasten of Yarnalong participant. And so we're sending it your way. We're wondering, are you self-taught? Did you learn, from a family member, from a book, something else? And also, how does your journey as a crafter shape the way that you approach design? So go at it and chat among yourself. Take it away from there. So anyone wants to get started with that one?
I can start. I have so my mom knits, and I think she tried to teach me when I was, I don't know, 9, 10 maybe. But so she knits like we call it grandma style. So when you work purl, the knit stitches for the loop, the back loop is in front. So it's like I can't remember the name, but anyway, but she knew that the proper way exists. So, and she signed me for a class, and it was pretty intense, not just a class, it was a course. So I think it was like 3 months or something. So, and we learned from very beginning, casting on, knit stitch, purl stitch, and through the all possibilities, garments, hats, whatever. We made many samples, but not like in real size, but like doll size, something, some hat or skirt or whatever. And we learn everything what it's needed to be done for the projects, for creating projects and starting from scratch, and also reading a book that at that time was a book. Yeah, so it was more than 30 years ago. So, and then I start making, working on some projects, and I was like kind of regular, but it's not was my like main craft that I was pursued. I was also very a bit Swiss, so I made all my garments like probably from top to bottom. And this was my more craft that I was doing. But then in 2002, I moved to Germany. I was born in Russia, so I moved to Germany, and I didn't bring my all the sewing stuff and sewing machine and so on, so on. So of course, it was like, and starting all over there, it was pretty expensive. So, and I start picking more knitting and start exploring like online forums for knitters, and then start seeing more what people doing in crocheting, because in like in my head it was more like crochet is for making doilies or something. And then I was, okay, it's not just this, you can explore much more in crocheting. So, and I just pick a book in a library that I think, start doing something that I can recreate. And so crocheting was self-taught with a book, with magazines. And then, yeah, and I start working on crocheting and knitting. And just recently, like, yeah, over a year ago, I started picking up Tunisian because people start sharing more and more Indonesian patterns and
Yeah, yeah.
designs. I was like, okay, I want to try this. Yeah, it was interesting how it started from one thing and just continue to exploring more, learning more, and again, this going. Never stop. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So what
there's
about
a
you, Vimal?
Yeah, I similar story, but not a sewist or a knitter that way. We were taught in school, so I went to a convent, so we were taught needlework as part of our school curriculum. But in school, I was more interested in sports and books, and I did not pick it up then. So I used to just come and give it to my mom and say, "Can you please finish this for class tomorrow? It's going to be graded or it needs to be done." And my mom knits, she sews, she crochets, and so I used to just give it to her and run off. And fast forward to 1995, and I'd just gotten married, had a son, and I saw my sister do an elaborate filet crochet. And exactly like what Natalia said, I was growing up in India, we were told you knit with wool and you crochet with thread. So if you go into
Okay.
any shop and you say, I would like to crochet, he will only give you two colors, ecru or white. That's it. And thread, that teeny itty bitty thread. That's it. And the steel hooks. So I said, okay, so this is it. And my sister had done a huge musical instrument cover, which is like 6 foot long by 3 feet wide. And I was like, oh, she did this. I have to do something. And coincidentally, I moved to the US that time and went into Walmart, picked up a self-help book, which had everything, knit, crochet, tat, everything. And because I had a small baby with me, I didn't want to have two pointy needles. So I picked up crochet and said I could put it down and not be, bothered. Like stitches are not going to come off. I won't miss my place. And that's how I started. And that was an eye opener. Like she said, you go in and you see like shelves and shelves upon yarn and, the material that is available, hooks that are available. I was just blown away. And this was at the time when eBay was getting started. I don't know whether you guys would remember it because I'm dating myself. So eBay was so popular, and I'd be sitting there, waiting to see is there something interesting coming on that I can get off eBay. And there were just two forums for crochet. One was called Crochet Partners, and the other one was called Crochet List online. This was 1997. And that's how my entry into the online world with crochet. So I started reading more and more about crochet, getting as many patterns because in India we are given a piece and we recreate from the piece. There is no record of there is no written pattern. Nobody learns from a written pattern. So if you look at, if I even now, even current day, when I say I'm publishing a pattern, my fellow Indians will first come and ask me, is there a video tutorial? I'm like, man, I just spent hours writing it for you. I cannot do a video tutorial right now. So, but yeah, so it is all look at it. So, but if you give an object to them, they'll look at it and recreate it in no time. So that's their skill. So I learned in the US, so I picked up pattern reading, how to write the pattern, how to spell it out, so it's understandable and stuff like that. I just picked up knitting just to know whether I remember knit and purl and a few lace stitches. That's it. It is too slow for me, and I want to see a finished project. So I always put my knitting as a whip and pick up my crochet again. So that's my journey for learning crochet.
Yeah, I was fresh out of grad school and working my first full-time job, and I didn't know what to do with my evenings because I was single, living alone, and I didn't have homework for the first time in my life. And so I was like, well, I don't want to just sit here and watch TV or is there something I can do with my hands? And then my best friend from high school told me she was having a baby. So I'd seen in grad school, I I'm a librarian, and librarian and knitting crochet go very hand in hand, right? So a lot of my classmates would bring their stuff to class and they'd work on it during class. And I thought, well, that seems like a nice thing to do. So a friend taught me the basics, and then I'm trying to see if I have the book up here. I don't see it, but a book my mom had been given in the 80s. She gave me, it's just a small little pamphlet that teaches you the basic stitches of crochet. And I still think that it's one of the clearest and best written introductions to crochet. Um, I I'm one of those odd people that not a big fan of video tutorials unless I really don't understand what's happening. I just understand the written better. So I basically self-taught from there on, and I was finding all of my patterns and tutorials and everything through Pinterest. Um, so it was a long time, I guess, before I really discovered any kind of online crochet community. I just didn't really go looking for it. I kind of thought Pinterest had everything I needed. Now Pinterest is driving me nuts with all of the AI crochet patterns
I
and things.
swear.
I can't. So then I started seeing Tunisian crochet suggestions pop up, and I thought, oh, well, that looks like it's got a fabric that's more like knit,
Mm.
but I don't have to deal with two needles and yarn. So I want to try that out. And so I picked it up. And then once again, a friend told me she was having a baby. I'd already made her first two kids blankets off of patterns. I thought this time I'm gonna make it Tunisian. Um, and when I couldn't really find what I had in my head, I made it myself. And sadly, we did not get to meet that baby girl, but I went ahead and finished the blanket and gave it to her. And that kind of became the first, it was the first, it's still my most popular design ever. Um, and and it kickstarted me trying to create things that combined combine different stitches in a way that gave you an heirloom feel without having to really pay much attention to what row you were on. You could still do it kind of mindlessly, but because it was changing stitches throughout the row, there was something to keep your interest, I guess. So most of my blankets have that kind of um, aspect to them. Um, and the first design was the juniper blanket. Um, and yeah, so that's, I think, um, how it's kind of shaped my journey as I approach designing, I guess, is trying to make things affordable to make. Because when I started crocheting, I was on a really strict, I'm still on a pretty strict budget. So I've only just started dabbling in wool. And that's been a steep learning curve for me because it's just so different from the acrylic that I was used to crocheting with and how it behaves, especially after it's been wet and blocked, right? It's acrylic doesn't really change that much. Um, but I just bought some gloves and realized they might be a little too big now that I've blocked them. And because I kind of got into designing by modifying patterns, I always want to make my designs easy to modify and really it's your product. Like I might be providing the framework, but you're making it for whatever, whether it's for personal use or a gift, and I want you to be as happy as you can be with the final product. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah, I
my
can
answer to
relate
that
with
question.
with this idea. So I like to give you a starting point, but if you can modify it, I will be happy to see what you're changing
Mhm.
and how you're changing. Uh, like my latest design, double scrap cowl.
Mhm.
I added like only 3 colors because I was using scrap yarn
Yeah.
for this, and the one colors ended, so I added this one extra, and in the description I'm also suggesting that you can use more colors and more. It's a kind of stripy things, so I can show you this. So it's a narrow, and you work. Do you start
Vertically.
with the width of the cowl and work whatever length you want,
Mhm.
whatever how far you can stretch your yarn. So if your first yarn ended at this point, you start second yarn, then so and so. And also some of my patterns, for example, I have one skein of something and I made an extra thing, yeah. And if you want to stay in the yardage of this one skein, main skein, so you need to pay attention so it's stretched to the finish
Mhm.
point. So, and in the pattern I can write, so for example, at this point you need to be at half point of your skein, for example. So, and then if you go forward, then it will be like decreasing also. Or also I have designed an opposite, we're starting from the tips and going toward the middle. So again, you have half of this,
Mhm.
whatever point you
Mhm.
meet, your yarn ends. So this is my ideas of utilizing the yarn up to your max
Mhm.
potential. So, and again, this is your project. My gauge is this kind of gauge, and when you start your project, the gauge will be a little bit different. Sometimes it's not a garment, for example. It's okay to be a little bit different in the gauge, and it's your project. You're working your project. Just make it like a fun experience for you, and just going on a journey with
Yeah.
the starting point of the pattern. Yeah,
Mhm.
I like usually if I work also from someone's pattern, I modify it anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
I like the this and this and this, but then I modify it to my likes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's how my brain works. So, and I want that my customers, when they get in my patterns, so they also can modify something and like it their way. Yeah, this is always interesting for me when people are saying, I can do this and this in a range of the pattern. Am I like, why you can't? You can. Just pay attention to this point, to this point, and to this point, and then you work your way again with a little bit different gauge or a little bit different colorways or a little bit different even yarn weight also. Um, if you change this and this,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice point that you bring, Natalia, this gauge, right?
Mhm.
So, especially for scarves, blankets, we say it is not crucial. Your finished product might be either bigger, smaller, depending on what yarn you choose and what hook, and depending on you might be having the same yarn, but your hand tension is going to be different. So a couple of years back, I designed a blanket for the first time. Till then, I was just happy doing scarves and shawls. And so this blanket was called the Murray Kalam blanket. And Murray Kalam is local language, my mother tongue. It means rainy season. Murray is rain and Kalam is period. So rainy season. And in India, we don't have 4 seasons. We only have summer and then we have monsoon. The winters are very mild, especially in the south of India, where I am from. So it's like 23 degrees Celsius right now, or it can go at night, it can go to 16 degrees Celsius. Sorry, I'm speaking in Celsius. I cannot convert to Fahrenheit. As long as I was in the US, Fahrenheit was like popping out, and I moved back, and it's so hard to switch back. Anyways, so I was telling them you make your squares, any which size you pick your yarn, you make it. You just follow the pattern. You add more rounds if you want it bigger, or you reduce to make it smaller. But they just could not wrap their head around that. And the second thing was, if I've given something in the notes section of my pattern saying that read the notes before you move on to doing it, I find that they don't read those notes, and they'll come back to ask the very same question that I had addressed before. So now I'm doing like there is a notes section, and if that's something which is important before the start of the row, I put it in bold before that row to say that it was mentioned here, but I'm repeating myself. Please look at this point right now, or keep track of your stitches, or where the increases, where the decreases, kind of thing. So, yeah, gauge and telling people about choosing the right yarn for the right hook. It is a tough thing for me, especially. And most of mine, when I was in the US and I was using Red Heart or Joanne's yarns, or so though even though they are worsted yarns, and I get worsted yarn here in India, it's not the same. It's There is a difference in thickness, there is a difference in the length of the yarn itself. So it's very difficult for me sitting in the US and telling my Indian testers that, hey, this is what you should use. So I carried some of the Indian yarns with me when I went to the US so that I will have something to cross check with and tell them that this is what it is.
Yeah, the
Awesome.
yardage and metrage. So it's sometimes it's hard for people to understand. So
Yeah.
if, for example, I have a ball of yarn, like 50 grams, and it's
Mm,
100 yards, yeah, then in a 100-gram ball, it will be 200 yards. So it's
yeah.
for me, it's like absolutely natural, and so like that's it. You just look the number and change to whatever size ball you have. But then I start talking to people and like, no, it's not, it's different yarn.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right, right.
let's start to the point. Let's look at the numbers. Numbers never wrong.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Math is
Yeah.
never wrong. If it's 2 plus 2, it's always 4. So it's like, okay, that's mean sometimes you need to educate crafters,
Mm,
because especially if we came from different backgrounds, from different starting point for our crafting journey, and in different countries again, back in Russia when I was little and we have magazines, the pattern was like a 2 by 2
Yeah.
inch, and this is
Mm-hmm.
a
yeah.
sweater pattern, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everyone can read and can make it.
Yes.
But now I need to write it like 20 pages so people can understand,
Yeah.
because yeah, different culture, different
Yeah.
backgrounds, different points, and yeah,
It,
it's all different, but you can try to navigate all these paths and
Yeah.
write
Yeah.
it the way all can understand.
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
I um I think probably if I was to tell my friends what I use for designing, the most unexpected item they would hear is my kitchen scale.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
right. And I think that needs to get normalized among crafters. Just even if you're not designing, have that scale out and
Yeah.
figure out how much yarn you actually have at different points, how much you're using for your gauge swatches, because
Yeah.
that's so helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Very.
yeah.
That's very, very good advice. And time is running out quite
Oh,
fast.
So
So,
fast.
so fast. So,
yeah. Carrie had asked that are needle sizes very different in India? The needle sizes are not different, just the numbering is different. So I would have a different way of identifying a 4 mm or a 5 mm, not just the way it is done in the US. So you just tell them it's pick a 4 mm or a 4.5 mm, they'll be okay. The needle sizes are the same, just the numbering is different.
In metric, right. Thank you for answering that question. And we also had another question from the audience, from Carrie as well, who was asking, what is your favorite thing you've ever made? So quickly, do you have something that you could each share? Any favorite comes to
I
mind?
cannot, sorry, I can't move. My cat is on my lap and he's gone to sleep. So I cannot, he's under the laptop table. I can't, I didn't have the forethought to have my basket of things with me. Yeah.
But you
So
can tell us about it. Just is
the
that one of your design that would be the favorite, one of your favorites?
my favorite would be the blanket, the first blanket that I designed, like I was telling you about,
Yeah,
and it mimicked things like having like dark clouds forming or the rain that is falling slantwise, right? So I had that being shown in the pattern and fresh shoots coming after the rain. So that pattern, which I call as Mare Column, is my favorite, I think that I did justice to that particular theme which I had chosen to design for. So, yeah,
that sounds lovely. And we do have the link in the chat.
yeah.
So make sure to go and see it, since Vimala cannot show it to us because of
Yeah,
the cat.
it's there in the house, but I seriously did not think to have it next to
No
me.
worries. And as for you, Lauren, any favorite comes to
Yeah,
mind?
probably my Snuggly Stripes blanket. I think it's the most recent pattern I've released. This is the most recent I've designed. But the Snuggly Stripes blanket, I designed it for my son. He's 1 year old, and I made it for him right before he was born. And so it's just always going to be special to me because of that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So sweet.
I'm
Okay.
probably moving very quick from my favorites. Today is this one. It's a Tunisian unique cowl, unique like UNEEK. So because it's my first Tunisian design and it's so cozy and so nice for me. It's like this is for right now. This is my favorite.
Fantastic. And it looks lovely as well. So,
Thank you.
well, thank you so much for playing along. That was such an interesting conversation. And I
Thank
bet you could keep going for a while, but that was all the time we had today. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. And it was great to get to know you all better through the conversation that you've had together. Um, and thank you everyone for coming out, especially to our designers, Vimala, Natalia, and Lauren. We hope you enjoyed today's video conversation, and we invite you to check out our Fasten of Yarnalong schedule for more events and activities. The Yarnalong keeps going until December 31st, 2025, so don't hesitate. It's never too late, to join us. Thank you so much, and
Thank
have a
you.
great day, everyone.
Thank you.
You too. Bye. Lovely to meet you all.